Hi, I'm Clayton Kraus, and for this TED Talk, I plan on informing you guys on how I formed the club, the benefits of climbing, uh, the mental benefits and physical benefits. So, how did I get started in rock climbing? It started because I was bored over the summer and needed to find a new hobby for alternative exercise. So I was bike riding to Columbus Autobahn Metro Park where I met a man named Hippie Jim at a artificial plaster wall with handholds for climbing. Jim was he was an interesting man, to say the least. He kind of looked like Leo from that '70s show. He helped us get involved by helping us learn how to tie the right knots, particularly the figure 8 knot is the most important knot in climbing. He told us what equipment to get, such as the right belay device and carabiner, as well as a harness. This harness particularly, has a tensile strength of up to 400 pounds. This carabiner can hold up to 4,000 pounds, so we made sure that we had the right equipment to ensure our safety. We weren't even sure if that was his real name. He gave us his phone number, and we texted him a couple times, and then one day he went off and disappeared. He would get fatigued and need to go smoke a cigarette behind a bush. So when forming the club, we had a lot of obstacles that were really hard to overcome. We were denied school funding by Principal Theotto, as well as the assistant principals and Paul Imhoff. We couldn't have any staff during our sessions because that's a liability, but previous attempts at the club were able to have that, and we were not. So we had no transportation, so I personally had to put aside money from my job for gas money to get to Vertical Adventures. And here's our club application form that Mr. Palmer was our guide for, and he signed off for us. And here is our stand at the club fair, where we originally started with 3 members and went up to 15 members. And then, since we didn't get school funding, we negotiated prices with Vertical Adventures. We met a guy named Chen and a guy named Ben, and they're very crucial. We negotiated a 25% off discount for members of the club. There are emotional and physical benefits for climbing. I like this little illustration at the bottom. A healthy body plus a healthy mind makes a healthy human. So there are 3 main types of motivation. There's intrinsic, and with intrinsic motivation applicable to a climber, a climber should see themselves at the top and be motivated to get to the top just by themselves and just seeing the mental image of themselves at the top. The second form is extrinsic. That's where a climber is motivated because of the people around them. They want to see others' approval of them doing something hard because that makes them feel good. And then there's amotivation. This can be seen as the least healthy form of motivation because a climber is so scared of failing that they'll do anything to get to the top. And there are many more types of motivation, but these are just the main 3. Depression. Climbing and depression are somewhat correlated. Depression affects 6.7% of people in the United States as of 2015, and in 2007 that was only 3.2. So a person that experiences depression will experience fear, pride, lust, and anger, and more. Climbing has recently been used as a means of rehabilitation for people struggling with depression. There's also a lot of prevalent eating disorders. So professional climbers often experience eating disorders because there's an ideal body for climbing that's really long and slender. And just because of genetics, that can be a really hard thing to achieve. So they're going to want to have a diet consisting of nuts, grains, soup, tuna, and peanuts, really high carb diet. But also, climbing can be used as a means of rehabilitation for people with anorexia nervosa and bulimia. So I found these two things to be rather conflicting in my research, but it was still interesting nonetheless to see. So the physical benefits of climbing are increased heart rate and blood pressure, and that just helps clear out your veins and arteries, and it's good for your bones and muscles. You can really build some good upper body strength through climbing and following through that high carb diet, which a lot of people do. I found myself um, following that diet as well. Seemed to work for me. So there's also a lot. The special needs community has recently been getting involved in climbing because there's a good community sense. There's a lot of different type of people, and it brings people together. So Vertical Adventures hosts an event for people with cerebral palsy or many other disorders, and I was going to get involved in that with the club, but we were unable to due to the time constraints. The event was supposed to be about a week ago, but the club was unable to do that because of the COVID-19 virus. So in cerebral palsy, there's a thing called the deep vein thrombosis. It's a blood clot that forms between the hamstring and the groin, either in those areas. And if the blood clot shifts, then it can go to the heart or spine and be potentially fatal. So climbing, as you saw before in my last slide, it improves your heart rate to clear out and prevent blood clots. And it's very stimulating for people with cerebral palsy to get their heart rate up because there aren't many other activities that can do that. And for ASD, or autism spectrum disorder, they showed improved grip strength, and they had a better self-image of themselves because they had better upper body strength. So what happens for the club now? We have developed a succession plan where Ryan Hervey, he's going to be a senior next year. He showed some great leadership. And Sam Favret, who's Liam Favret's brother, who is my co-founder. He showed some great leadership. He's younger. He's going to be a sophomore next year, but he knows the process and what to do. And I think people respected him this year, even though he was a freshman. So also how to get involved is to reach out for some of those people. If you have a younger sibling that would want to get involved and see these benefits of climbing, that'd be great. Make sure to find those guys. Also, another goal for the fourth quarter, other than trying to get involved with the cerebral palsy event at Vertical Adventures, was to try and get a gym credit. We were unable to do that because of all this, but I want to try and set it up so that the people for next year can get it, because I know that not everyone has their gym credit done in high school, and they don't play 2 seasons of sports to get that PE waiver. We also want to try and get school funding. That was really hard. Dublin Jerome and Hilliard Davidson both get school funding, and we don't. I don't think I made a point of emphasis on that enough in my proposal. So for next year, I want to try and get involved in that, even though I'm going to be in college, to try and help the club out. And our biggest thing is to try and solidify friendships. As I said before, climbing is a big community, a lot of different type of people, but I got to experience people that I never would have without the club. We made sure, if someone's sitting at lunch, um, make sure to go at least say hi and ask how they're doing. Mental health is on the rise, as you saw on my slide before. I tried to make an emphasis on the club that nobody should feel alone today. It's really it's an important thing. So in order to solidify these friendships, we made a Snapchat group chat, and a lot of people talk in that. We send some funny memes, etc. But this did take a lot of work to get it done, to form the club, and I can honestly say that I would do twice as much work to get to the point where we are now, or at least where we ended, in order to just achieve where we are now. So, thanks guys, it's been great. Oh, and I don't know how questions work, so feel free to ask any questions below. I'll make sure to get back to you. Thanks guys.